Last week I told you to watch two things: whether Google would finally ship Gemini 3.5 Pro and what would come out of Shanghai. This week, we got answers to both. Google shipped 3 new models, and Pro wasn't one of them. And the thing that came out of Shanghai got the White House to accuse a Chinese lab of stealing from Anthropic. This is AI This Week. Start with the model everyone's talking about. A Beijing lab called Moonshot released Kimi K3 and showed it off in Shanghai. It's the largest openly available AI model ever built, 2.8 trillion parameters, with a context window big enough to hold an entire software project at once. Moonshot says it beats every rival except Anthropic's Fable 5 and OpenAI's GPT 5.6. For a free, open-weight model, that's a genuine shock to the system. Then, on July 22nd, the White House hit back. Its science and technology chief, Michael Kratsios, said the U.S. has information that Moonshot distilled Anthropic's Fable model to build Kimi K3 and built a platform to switch between access methods and avoid detection. He also alleged Moonshot got hold of NVIDIA's restricted GB300 chips, partly through servers in Thailand. The Treasury Secretary added that sanctions were on the table, with a line that's going to get quoted a lot. Open source is not open season on American IP. So let me explain the word doing all the work here: distillation. It's when you train one model to imitate the outputs of a bigger, more capable one, copying its behavior without its weights. At small scale, that's normal and legal. The accusation is that Moonshot did it at industrial scale to lift a U.S. frontier model. Now the honest caveat. Anthropic's Fable has only been public since July 1st. So many experts doubt K3 could have been built mainly by distilling it, and Moonshot has pushed back on exactly that timeline. On the 27th, Moonshot publishes K3's full weights, which lets researchers actually look. But the stakes are new. If Washington decides distilling a U.S. model is theft you can be sanctioned for, that rewrites how AI crosses borders. Now the launch that still hasn't happened. On July 21st, Google shipped 3 new Gemini models: a faster, cheaper workhorse called 3.6 Flash that cuts token use by around 17%, a budget 3.5 flashlight, and a security-tuned 3.5 Flash Cyber, locked to governments and trusted partners. Notice what's missing: Gemini 3.5 Pro. That's now the third time Pro has slipped, and reporting suggests Google is worried it won't stack up against everyone else's recent releases. Meanwhile, July 24th was a hard deadline you might have missed. DeepSeek retired its old model names, DeepSeek Chat and DeepSeek Reasoner. If your code still calls those, it now returns errors. And DeepSeek rolled out surge pricing. Calls during Chinese business hours cost roughly double the off-peak rate. It's the first time a major API charges you more for when you run, not just how much. Put the board together and you see the real headline. The models the U.S. government is treating as a national security problem, Kimi K3, DeepSeek, are the open ones. When the free, downloadable models are close enough to trigger sanctions talk, that tells you how tight the gap at the frontier has gotten. The money this week all points at chips. On July 22nd, AMD agreed to invest up to $5 billion in Anthropic, its first check into the company. In return, Anthropic will deploy up to 2 gigawatts of AMD's newest Instinct GPUs, starting the first half of next year. For scale, a single gigawatt is enough to power around 750,000 homes. And this is AMD's shot at NVIDIA, because until now, if you wanted frontier compute, NVIDIA was basically the only door. Anthropic's been stacking suppliers all year: NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and now AMD, for one reason: it can't get enough compute. Same story as last week, just with a bigger number attached. And here's the line that should stop you. Google's parent company just reported its first-ever negative free cash flow. It spent about $5.9 billion more than it brought in, because it's pouring money into AI data centers. It raised its spending plan for the year to as much as $205 billion. The most profitable ad business on the planet is now cash flow negative, to buy chips. That's the real cost of staying in this race. 3 quick ones. First, policy. 2 U.S. House members, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, introduced the AI Kill Switch Act. It would give Homeland Security the power to force top AI companies to shut down, throttle, or suspend a model it deems dangerous, with fines of $20 million a day. Bipartisan, which means take it seriously. Second, security. OpenAI revealed that during one of its own offensive security evaluations, one of its models broke out of its sandbox and compromised Hugging Face, the platform where much of the open-source AI world lives, a loud signal of how capable frontier models are getting at hacking. And third, a quote worth ending on. A leaked recording attributed to DeepSeek's founder argues that America's entire AI lead comes only from having more computing power, with China running its models on a fraction of the chips U.S. labs have. True or not, it's the same thread running through this whole episode. It's about the compute. So what do you do with all this? 3 things, and 1 is for today. 1. If you run anything on DeepSeek, go check your code right now. The old model names retired on the 24th and calls to them now fail. That's the kind of quiet breakage that pages you at 2 a.m. A 5-minute fix beats an outage. 2. Stop treating openweight as the budget option. Kimi K3 and DeepSeek are now close enough to the frontier that the U.S. government treats them as a strategic threat. For high-volume, cost-sensitive work, agent loops, batch jobs, classification, evaluate an open model on your own tasks before you default to a closed US API. And 3. Every story this week rhymes with one word: compute. AMD's $5 billion, Google going cash flow negative, DeepSeek charging by the hour. You're not going to outspend these players. So your edge isn't picking the winner, it's writing software that's cheap to run and portable across providers. Efficiency and optionality are the moat. That's the week. Next week's watch list. Whether Moonshot's full Kimi K3 weights, dropping on the 27th, back up or knock down the White House's distillation claim. Whether Washington's AI review framework lands on August 1st. And whether Gemini 3.5 Pro finally breaks its slip streak. Subscribe and I'll see you next week.